to the traditional grip lesson. This is pretty much just an introduction to traditional grip. I'll start by saying that it takes a lot of work to master it, to get really good at it at the level that a lot of the groups are competing at with it nowadays, like drum corps and colleges and really good high school groups. But this is just a brief introduction to get you started, because a lot of groups, they've had, the kids, they learn it themselves. They see someone doing it and they pick up a stick and they try to, they try to emulate it just by how they see it, which is not bad. But I'm here to give you a good foundation for your traditional grip journey. So I just want to start by saying that traditional grip is, pretty much just for marching snare drum. There's some drum set players that'll play it. It can be really relaxed depending on the type of technique that you use. But for the most part, it's just for rudimental marching snare drum is where you'll see it, the majority of it. That's not to say it's just, it's not just a grip that's all by itself. I mean, it exists in the realm of, bass drum playing, marimba playing. When you have a horizontal wrist turn versus a vertical wrist turn, right? Here's the vertical one, here's the horizontal. So traditional grip, it's similar to different percussion instruments. So, the benefits of learning it can transcend just marching percussion. But for the most part, it is for those players that want to make a drum corps, or they want to make, their college drum line, or their high school group. They're trying to be super competitive, so they switch to traditional grip. But before we get into the video, I just want to say that there's the PDF that comes with this that explains pretty much, it goes into really great detail about the setup and how your hands are supposed to look. Where to set your hands, all that sort of thing. I just want to give you a brief introduction via video on some of the things that I'm saying in the packet. So I just want to quickly talk about the three main parts of the hand for traditional grip that we'll be focusing on in the introductory section. So we have the fulcrum right here, which is this spot. You can make a gun. You could pretend like you're gonna shake someone's hand, and then stick the stick, right where the thumb and the index finger meet, right in that little webbing right there. So that's your fulcrum, and that's like the most important spot of traditional grip. A lot of people won't tell you this, but that is essentially the fulcrum. That's where the stick rotates from there. Your arm is involved because when you're doing a horizontal wrist turn, your arm is going to move just by nature of the wrist turn, versus a vertical one, your arm doesn't necessarily need to move. So there's more things happening in a horizontal wrist turn, but point in case, the fulcrum, the spot where this grip originates from, is right back here. The second piece of the hand that we're going to talk about, part of the hand, is the index finger right here. This, in tandem with the thumb, creates this cross connection, which most people will recognize in traditional grip. This is the spot that a lot of people have said in the past is the fulcrum right here. It's debatable, but for the most part, there's not a lot of control here. And in the fulcrum, like if you think about your right hand, everything kind of happens from your right hand fulcrum over here between your index finger and your thumb, right? You can play this kind of stuff and you add your other fingers on, and then everything sort of originates from this spot. So likewise, in traditional grip, you want everything to originate from a certain spot, and I think that originates from back here in this spot, back to this spot right here. But that's not to say that this connection isn't important. Without this connection, you wouldn't be able to access the rest of your hand right here, because your thumb is here, but you need your index finger here to utilize the rest of your hand as we go along. So the important thing to remember is to never break this connection right here. You can see this thumb goes on the cuticle of the pointer finger, and it just sits there the whole time, and it's there for the ride. That's all you got to remember about that. When we start to actually play, and as you get more advanced, you'll start to notice that the stick, you tend to feel like you're going to start to feel like you're pushing down from this spot. We have our fulcrum back here, but you're going to want to be pushing down from this cross that we have right here, right? But don't worry about that yet. Like I said, this is just an introduction, just to get you on your feet and in the right direction. The last finger we're going to talk about is the control finger right here, which is the ring finger. And this finger is pretty much one of the most important things. Probably I don't want to say the most important, because the other two are just as important. But without the control finger, we wouldn't be able to play, downstrokes. We wouldn't be able to play upstrokes. really well. Like, I mean, we could, but it wouldn't look very good. See how wobbly this looks if I try to play a downstroke, right? Try to play some taps. Taps are fine. Rebound strokes are fine. But anything other than that, you know, and a lot of the music we have, you know, we play a lot of downstrokes. We play a lot of paradiddles in our music, and we can't really utilize that without this control finger right here. As you can see, with just the thumb and the control finger, I'm able to get a lot more, you know, it looks a lot better, right? And then that can lead to, you know, bucks or paradiddles or whatever we're playing, right? So that finger is just something, it's very important. A lot of people kind of take it for granted because it gives the finger motion. It gives it control, and you can move the stick a lot more efficiently with this finger being utilized. So those are the three big fingers on the left hand that we're gonna talk about in the introduction stage. The middle finger, right? I don't want to flip you off. Sorry. The middle finger here and the pinky are they're important too, in a sense of like in your right hand. You know, your pinky's important. You don't want your pinky to come off the stick, but your pinky's not. You know, you're not working out your pinky for every note you're playing. But in your left hand, the same thing applies. Like the middle finger is important. You know, it needs to stay nice and relaxed and curled around the stick. But it's not, you know, you're not pushing down with your middle finger. Your pinky's not pushing up or anything like that. They're on the stick for extra support. They're mostly just there to enjoy the ride, kind of like your pinky on your right hand and sometimes your ring finger for extra support. With that being said, though, you don't want to, as you start to, you know, master you'll see it as the order of operations in the packet. As we start to master, you know, the thumb, and then the index and the thumb, and then the thumb and control finger, and then eventually, you know, the index, control finger, and thumb. And then when we start to add those on, you'll notice that you'll want those fingers to match the rest of your hand. You don't want those to be, you know, off the stick and look ugly. The phrase is spider fingers. You don't want your fingers to look like, you know, like this, you know, like witch fingers, spider fingers, whatever you want to call them. You want them to be nice and relaxed, nice and curved. You can see it's a nice curved shape. And so you want to try and keep that shape, those nice relaxed fingers, as you go throughout the process. So we're going to be working on a simple exercise just to get the hand moving in traditional grip, to see how it feels, how it's supposed to look. This is probably new to some of you, or I mean, most of you probably have tried playing traditional grip at some point, but playing it the correct way is definitely new to most people. So the exercise goes like this. Simple. But as you can see, what we're really doing, because we're just playing with the thumb fulcrum back here, right? We're playing with our fulcrum back here, right? This is where traditional grip comes from. This is where it happens, is back here. It's where we get our power. So we're just going to be working on that to start, right? The first thing you want to do is you want to start like you're going to shake someone's hand. So you put your hand out like you're going to shake someone's hand, and then you take the stick and you just put it about a little less than third up into that fulcrum right there, and you just keep it nice and firm there so that it stays in place. You don't want to squeeze too hard. You don't want to be too loose, or else it'll fall out. Too hard and you'll get a choked off sound. Too loose and it'll fall out. Right in between, a nice amount of pressure, nothing too painful. And so from here, all you want to do is keep that firm right here, and just turn your wrist into the drum. Just like this, nice and easy. Yeah, just like that. And then eventually, you can play the exercise. One thing to note while you're doing it with this position is to keep these fingers right here, these four, nice and relaxed as you're doing this. You don't want it to look like spider fingers is what I always heard them being called. You don't want them to look like this as you're playing. See that? Nothing gross or unnatural like this. Nice and relaxed. You can see my fingers shake when I'm playing this because they're nice and relaxed. They're not firm and tense like this. It may take some time to get used to playing like this, because a lot of people when they play traditional grip, they like to play from the pointer finger and the thumb, which is fine, you know, because that comes into play later. But we really need to build up this back part of the hand to be successful. All right, next we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to follow in the packet the order of operations that we have listed. So up next, we're going to add the thumb and the index finger, right? And remember, the important thing about this connection right here is that it never breaks. This part right here always stays put no matter what's happening. So once you master doing it with just the thumb fulcrum, go ahead, add that index finger on, play through that exercise. One thing you might notice is that when you play this, the first pattern, the stick tends to want to fall out of your hand, right? Because we haven't accessed our control finger yet, our ring finger. Don't let that happen. In order to keep that stick in place, I think about the thumb just being a little bit more firm than it normally would, just to keep the stick in place while we're doing this. Right? I'm not squeezing too tight, but if I'm too relaxed, you know, then it's just gonna fall out of my hand like this, right? So just in order to counter that, you can give it a little bit more pressure right here in the thumb fulcrum. And another thing I do in between, if you can watch my wrist, my arm comes up a little bit in between, just to give it a little extra boost as I'm playing. Cool. So again, remember we start with the thumb fulcrum only, right? Play through the exercise, and then we add the pointer finger. And once we add the pointer finger, the three fingers right here that aren't playing, nothing's gonna change. They're still gonna be nice and relaxed. No spider fingers, nothing gross, nothing nasty. Okay, last is thumb, the fulcrum, plus the control finger, which is just the ring finger. And once you start to play with this, you'll notice instantly, like, the amount of control you have it's just how it should be. Because I mean, this is the finger that controls everything, and obviously when we add the pinky, it just gives it more support. But this finger, it's called the control finger for a reason. So again, order of operations, start here, add thumb, and then go thumb, control finger through the exercise. Notice how nice and even it feels with that finger there. And those three fingers that aren't playing, again, like the other times that we're playing, just keep them nice and relaxed, right? Once you play through just thumb and control finger a few times, go ahead and add the index finger on with the control finger. So your hand will look like this. You'll have your index finger on, your ring finger on, and your middle finger and your pinky finger will be off the stick like this, kind of like a rock sign, right? The important thing is not to forget how your hand felt at each stage, right? Going back to this guy, all the way up to when we eventually add all the fingers on, right? You want to be able to feel each stage of the learning process in your hand as you're playing. Snare drumming is all about how your hands feel, especially your left hand, because there's so many little things that can happen to change your sound. So you want to be as consistent as possible, and so if you're playing it, you know, when you learn like this, you want that to translate to when you put on all your fingers. You still want that thumb fulcrum to be like the main focus of the left hand here, right? So don't forget the things you learn as you add more fingers on, right? Keep feeling the spots that we talked about and focus on that as you improve your traditional grip playing.